Welcome back, everybody. Just ahead of Reid Johnson from the Markcast, the Western Dodge text line's open, 902-518-3033. Drive with confidence. Shop Western Dodge and Moose Jaw financing, selection, and service you can count on. The man has joined us while on vacation. That's how dedicated he is, Mr. Reid Johnson. You don't mind me saying from the Markcast, right? Right? Let's go with that.
No, that's okay. You can still, I'm retired. I'm a retired podcaster, but I'm still in the game. I'm like Al Pacino. Just when I was out, I thought I was out. You pull me back in, Rod. I'm on vacation here. What's going on?
You're never getting out. So we'll address that before this interview's over. But give me an update on your life. Where are you and the beautiful Dorothy vacationing, Reid? I'm sorry to be so invasive, but I want to know.
It's great. We're at the mountains. We're doing the Canadian thing. You can see the trees. I think they're playing pickleball here. We rented the court, but yeah, they're all playing. We got the in-laws and the nieces and nephews. And I said, I got to talk to Rod. So we're here, but we're out at the mountains doing the Canadian thing.
I appreciate that. So you're in BC?
Mm-hmm. No, at Central Washington. Yeah.
So it's not the
but
Canadian thing.
When they always talk. Well, no, but they talk the Canadian. Oh, I can't watch CFL during the summer. We're going on holiday. We're going on this. That's what I'm saying. We're doing. Like, I'm out of town. We're on holiday. I guess that's what I'm saying.
I'm teasing you, of course. And well, again, I appreciate you taking the time with us. We'll only keep you for about 15 minutes here. But we're going to get to the Washington Commanders name change. We'll get some NFL stuff. But this came across my phone last night. I was broadcasting a baseball game. I saw Jenna's tweet that the USFL was folding. And I'm like, well, Reid's my guy. I texted you immediately. What is going on with the USFL?
So the report out, and I did all, like I said, I was sitting there. We were hanging out last night. My phone's blowing up. I thought we were trading for Geno Suarez or something for the Mariners. I thought something exciting was happening. According to Mark Perry, UFL News Hub, 4 of the 8 UFL teams are going away. So all 4 of the USFL franchises, which technically now is 5 of those that have gone away. So they're going to get rid of 4 of the teams, relocate 4, and then the 4 XFL teams are going to remain. Supposedly.
Well, how do we feel about that?
Yeah. I don't feel really great. This, there was a lot of speculation towards the end of the season. Were we going to get a big ownership announcement at the championship game? Was Tom Brady going to be involved? Were we going to add a team, an expansion, relocation? We miss all those windows, right? So now we're in the summer. The UFL is on the mind of nobody. And now this news comes out, well, we might move 4 of the teams next year. And now news is coming out today. Well, we're thinking about it. It could be next year. It could be, well, we don't really know. Well, now if I'm a Birmingham Stallions fan, well, I feel like I'm shot out to the shed. Who cares about me? Or if I'm any of these teams, it's frustrating, and it leaves a lot of uncertainty right now when there should not be uncertainty leading into year 3 of the league.
No, and the viewers are they're all writing in going. So is it a 4-team league, an 8-team league? What are we left with here?
So you're going to have the 4 original XFL teams. So DC, you're going to have San Antonio, you're going to have St. Louis Battlehawks, and then you're going to have what would it be? Yeah, it'd be the Arlington Renegades, right? So you're going to have the 4 teams of that. They're talking Louisville, Kentucky for the 1 USFL team. They're talking Florida, Boise, Ohio, and then Canton, Ohio. Boise, Idaho, and then Canton, Ohio. Canton at least makes sense. The USFL had used the Hall of Fame Stadium there for a couple years when they were doing their championship games. The Boise thing, and then it might be Orlando, it might be Tampa. They've had teams there in the past, but there's not a lot of firm information on that coming out. I think Mark's still trying to source that.
I have more questions on that in a second, but Kirk in Toronto writes in, he says, hey, all the best to Reid Johnson in the future. Enjoyed the Markcast's CFL coverage. Do you want to explain why you are now a retired podcaster? Because I think, as you know, the Markcast had a pretty big imprint with football fans across the continent. That's what I saw.
Yeah, no, and we're still involved. Speaking of the Commanders, we're doing we decided to do the Madrid trip this year. The Commanders are playing the first ever NFL game in Spain. So we wanted to do that. Dorothy lived in Spain for a while, studied there. I said, would you rather go to Winnipeg for the Grey Cup? It's the same day. Or would you rather go to Madrid for Spain? Wasn't a tough sell. So we're taking the year off, and I just think that's kind of where it all spurred from. And this UFL stuff, I mean, I'm going to be invested. I want to see this succeed. But yeah, what are we talking about today? Like, we're getting rid of, like you said, is the league folding? Is it sitting around? None of these people know what's going on. It's very frustrating.
No, I know. And here's my last question on that. I'll get to in a second. But you deal with the NFL just like I deal with the NFL. It's the biggest league in our worlds. I'm not a soccer guy. So as far as I'm concerned, it's the biggest league in my world.
Yeah.
And you get a lot of push with your Washington coverage. I get a lot of push with my NFL coverage. And their fans are asking for more of what we do. So why the hell wouldn't we, instead of fighting with these other leagues, they can't get out of their own way? And because you've been watching the UFL and the XFL since day one, or at least in this latest iteration, what should they have done different in your mind?
Everything that worked about where we are now, and I tweeted this last night, was done with Oliver Luck, Sham Schwartzstein, Vince McMahon, all of those people back in 2020, because they knew how to build, how to market, like the CFL. And I was listening before your talk, marketing and the NFL teams coming up to Canada, right, and the CFL. But they got in, they built the league, and now everyone that's acquired it, now Fox, Danny and The Rock, you acquire this league, you don't know what you've bought, you have some of these teams that work, and now Fox comes in. It's this baby that was born in 2020 has been so bastardized along the way here that I don't even know what it is anymore, and no one that's involved. Look, we're cutting out the four. So anything that Fox brought to the table now is gone, right? So all of their teams, you brought in the 4 teams, they're gone. You actually took one of the XFL teams, changed it to a USFL team, and you've lost that well. Everything that's been brought in from this merger has ruined all of this. I mean, it's insane that they're literally tearing down the house that they bought and destroying it from the inside.
Navy Don writes in, he says, that doesn't sound very positive for the survival of the league. Andrew Ray writes in, he says, sorry to see the Markcast wind down. I enjoyed it. Jenna in Southern California says, I discovered the Rod Pedersen show through the Markcast. Trust me, I know. And that's why Reid's not getting away from me. I will always pull you in. Reid is not only a Hall of Fame podcaster, but he's an even more exceptional human being. And I know that for fact. BW writes in, he says, Boise, why not Seattle? If I could take a swing at that, it's not a pro town. Why do you – in Florida, I've asked all my football friends, why is college football so big down here? They're like, because it's our NFL and these non-NFL – Knoxville, Tallahassee.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll have a better shot in Boise. That would be my answer to that. But what's yours?
They blew it in Seattle. They waited too long. Once the Kraken came back, they lost that time period in that time of year. I mean, we were competing against Kraken games on the same night. I mean, we would have Kraken season tickets, down the street, and then we would be at the XFL game. You can't do that. I think the idea is maybe there's less competition. As you said, the UFL prior to this season had put out these requests, for cities to audition to, bring your team here or whatever. We never heard anything of that. So to me, I feel they're throwing darts at the wall. Hey, maybe we own some trademarks, and hey, can we play at a college stadium? There's no forethought. And now, like I said, you're 2 months out of the season. Any momentum you had is gone. They just laid off all their staff for this year because they can't afford to pay people year round. What are we doing here?
Okay. The last I'll read on this is Carlos in Indianapolis writes, and he says, so once again, the CFL will end up being the only mainstream pro football league not named the NFL that doesn't flop after a few seasons. Okay, I'll admit I was wrong. I wanted to see a merger, but maybe it's a good thing that it didn't happen. I was wrong. Yeah. Uncle, okay? I was wrong. I liked the CFL of the 90s with 8 American teams, but it's not happening. It's all good. Can we switch to the NFL yet, or do you have anything else on that?
Yeah, I would go back to and change my thoughts a lot. I thought that anyone that invested in this had a sense of what to do with the product, and it's clear, and that their interests and well-being and energy and everything has moved on. But yes, I was defending them because I thought they would have some semblance of a thought of how to construct a football league, but clearly this is just not happening. So.
There you go, everybody. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Vince McMahon and The Rock clearly have no idea what they're doing. And I'm not saying that at you. I'm saying somewhere along the line, something broke down here. Donald Trump wants to change the name of your favorite NFL team back to the Redskins.
I was very sad just because and I don't want to get into politics. I like my stuff to be separate, and so it could be any president, could be anything. Like I just want my sports to stay independent of any of that. So I think it's just noise. It is disconcerting because they're trying to get the stadium deal going. I mean, I know that that's a big deal, and that they're in the process. I know that the land's been allocated, and they need to do the vote, like another vote. But it would be a big deal, and he could hold it up. But I think that we're just, anything to kind of not pay attention to anything actually big that's going on is what we're going to do.
Good.
I don't want it to change. I don't want it to change.
You're okay with Commanders? You seem to jive with
100%. 100%. I have my Commanders necklace on right here. I mean, 100%. I don't have any. Let's not. If even one person's offended, I don't want to offend anyone. If even one person, don't worry about it. We'll just do something else. It's not a big deal.
It seems to be going fine. So when Trump came out with this, I was as shocked as everybody. Now,
yes,
onwards. Where's the trajectory for the Commanders? Are they still going up? Was it a blip, or what do we see this year?
Oh, I'm excited. We got to get Terry McLaurin signed, right? I mean, he's on for this year, but we got to get him extended. Training camp's going right now. We got Von Miller coming in. That's exciting. Dan Quinn seems excited about that. Obviously, Von Miller's about my age, but I think that, he still has a little bit in the tank. I don't think he's playing every snap all season. But no, I mean, we got Debo's coming in. I mean, I'm very excited, and I think the Jaden year 2 jump is going to be, even if he's the same and better, I think it's going to be great. I don't see a sophomore slump coming like we got with CJ Stroud, but he had all the injuries and stuff. So
I watch it all. 32 teams. I don't get too deep on any of them except for the Cowboys, and then I get deep enough that I don't want to look anymore. So I will say this. Yeah, I want to say this about Washington. Who's the reason for last year's surprising run the most? Jaden Daniels, Dan Quinn, somebody I don't know about, the new owner? What?
No, I mean, Jaden is that much better than everyone, and I think that he started at such a young age, and his intelligence and coming they talk. He's in the building at 4 a.m. with the VR machines on, and it was funny enough through the XFL podcasting. I used to talk to AJ Smith, who was one of the coaches for San Antonio, and they used the VR stuff with the quarterbacks back when they were stuck, kind of during the XFL bubble. And it's a game changer. And to be able to sit there and simulate everything at 300 speed. And then when you go out to the real play field, even though the NFL is so fast, you've trained yourself at it's insane. Jaden Daniels his ability to process that and his temperament and never panicking, it's insane.
I would say the Commanders season, is it going to be a repeat of what they did or better, is one of the top 10 stories in the NFL. What are some of the others in your mind?
I think the Eagles, obviously, and Anthony, my buddy in the group chat, he's pro Eagles and I'm pro Commanders. So as you imagine, that goes over pretty well in there. But, I think Jalen Hurts and all that, they always get that, we're disrespected. And they had the voting come out and Jalen Hurts isn't even wearing the ring because that was last year. And I'm on focus to the next. I like that. I like kind of giving them grief with that. Patrick Mahomes, the Chiefs are always floating around there. It's exciting. There's a lot of parity in the league, and I think we're getting rid of a lot of the aged out. The young crop of quarterbacks is really exciting. So it's been a lot of fun to watch.
Well, just looking at that NFC East, which, by the way, you're from Seattle. Why are you a Washington fan?
Because the XFL, because Heineke. We tracked Heineke all through COVID. That's how I kind of got into all that.
Okay. Well, everybody has their own reason.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, what are they saying in Seattle about Pete Carroll and Geno Smith down there in Vegas? Because you guys have moved on. They've moved on. How do they – I assume they want them to fail. That's a human thing.
Well, what was it? They were talking about Pete Carroll was trying to trade up in the draft to get in front of the Seahawks, when he was now down here in Oakland. I'm excited. Pete Carroll is a really, really old dude, but Pete Carroll has more energy than you and I combined, and I'm kind of excited to see what he does there. I don't think Geno's great, and then I was kind of happy to see them get rid of him in Seattle. I don't know if Darnold's going to be any better, but they saved him $5 million a year or whatever to get Sam instead of Geno. I think either one is a flip of the coin. I would take, and I would put Dak Prescott in there too. I think there's kind of a mid in that range, but they're fine.
It's funny.
They're not Jane Daniels.
Speaking of my Seahawks buddies, I asked John Ryan, the punter, one time, what's it like playing for Pete Carroll? And he goes, you just see him roll up in his champagne-colored convertible Mercedes with his young wife, and he's just bopping. He's cool. He's like, you want to play for a guy like that. There's just something about Pete that
100%.
his energy's contagious, like you say. Now, another Seahawk, I don't know if I'll call him a buddy, because I don't hang out with him like I do with John Ryan, but Luke Wilson. I got to get your take on Luke Wilson. You know him from Seattle. You're following what's going on. What do you think about this guy?
I tweeted, or I posted in the group chat after I retire this. I'm glad I don't have to have an opinion about Luke Wilson in the CFL. Like, I'm glad that me stopping the podcast. It's great. Like, he's great. I'm just tired of, like, and that's the CFL's problem, right? Like, we're talking about all this. Like, the biggest storyline I've seen about the CFL this year is the TSN broadcaster. And that's insane to me. Like, that should never be the headline. Like, Vernon Adams is killing it in Calgary, right? Like, let's talk about, it was a year ago now when I woke up and the Nathan Rourke trade was going on and all of that. But no, let's talk about, like, Luke Wilson. You know, he's saying poopy words about, like, I can't, and it's an echo chamber. So I'm glad I don't have to live with it every day. I'm fine.
Well, listen, I said the same thing earlier this week. We posted a meme that Dave Campbell in Edmonton, who I'm sure has been on your show, said, he goes, I love him. He's not trashing the league. And all of a sudden people are dumping all over. I said, this is the number one story in the CFL. And people said, no, it's not. If that's the number one story, we're in trouble. I'm like, what really is bigger? You are. Right. Like, what's getting more impressions? We can track these things these days. Luke Wilson is the biggest story in the CFL. Don't tell me that he's not. And I guess what, if you don't mind, I don't want to end this on a down note, but your experience with the CFL has been kind of negative, similar to mine. And I'm talking about that old guard people that just go ahead.
Luke is great. You need, like, and you're great, like, you're there, and, like, you know, you ran so Luke could fly, or, you know, whatever that metaphor is, right? Like, you know, some people crawl so others can run. Like, you know, Luke's got on that, but you need more than just one, because now everyone's like, oh, I love Luke too, and then everyone now, and so now it's still that homogenous whatever, like, don't just latch on to the cool thing. Like, be your own cool thing. Like, Luke's a cool thing, Rod's a cool thing, Dave, like, you can all be great. You don't all need to be, you know, it's this this echo chamber, the mimic society. It's the same with this XFL, like, multiple reports about the league. It's not multiple reports, it's Mark Perry with UFL News Hub, but then everyone else talks about it. Well, hey, everyone's talking about it. It's one person.
Fair. Well, and it's funny because I don't know how deep. I mean, your CFL fandom is fairly new, but David Benefield, Mr. Furious, BC Lions great, put on Facebook the other day that Luke Wilson's not saying anything new. He's like, we've been saying it for decades, and those of us that did have been ostracized for saying it. So that's what I'm sitting here going, is he going to get away with this? Because most of us have been exiled for saying exactly what he's saying. The difference is he's got the TSN and CFL behind him, backing him, right? That's the difference here. So we don't know how this is going to turn out. But anyways,
and maybe
we got 30 seconds.
Maybe they're finally, they're coming around, and we need more adversity that way. I mean, I said the same thing with the spring football and CFL. Nothing ever improved in life by sitting around and saying, like, this is fine. Everything can be improved. So that's great. Like, just, yes, I'm all about change and moving forward.
That's why we get along. Back to your vacation, buddy. Thanks for this. I hope to talk to you before Spain, but safe travels.
Oh, yeah.
The great Reid Johnson from the Markcast. He does such a great job, and he's such a great guy. We'll be back with a sports update right after this on Game Plus TV.